Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Welcome to Satsang. And so beautiful to be together with all of you. Starting as we always do, or usually do, with a question that's come in advance from our beautiful family joining from all over the world online. And then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here has. They've lovingly put a microphone there in the middle of the room, so don't be shy. Whatever question you have that's real and deep for you, come to the mic and share your name, share where you're from, and we'll dive into your question. But first, one that's come in advance from our global family. What role does silence play in spiritual growth? And how can we cultivate it in the midst of busy modern lives? So, when I came to India first, almost 30 years ago now, silence was one of the very, very first things that I was exposed to. Because Pujya Swamiji has been observing very long periods of silence for almost his entire life, since he was 8. And it was a huge core aspect of his spiritual path when he was young, given by his guru in the Himalayas, where he was spending literally months and months and months and months in silence. Then his guru would have him break it temporarily. They would travel. Then the guru would put him again in silence for months and months. When he moved to Parmarth Niketan, he was put into a 17-month silence by his guru at that time, and has continued to practice long periods. When I met him, he was doing weeks at a stretch at the turn of each of the seasons. 40 days typically at the turn of a season. As life started demanding more and more of him, not only as president of Parmarth, but as a global figure for peace in the environment and interfaith harmony and so many things, his practice of silence shifted, but became no less intense. And instead of it being an extended period of time, a few times a year, it became every day. And so he now observes silence from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. every day. And frequently again in the afternoons for a few hours. So here's what I learned about silence from him, and then also, of course, from the times that I've had the beautiful benefit of practicing it. First and most important thing, silence is not an absence of speech. It certainly includes an absence of speech. If you're speaking, you're most definitely not in silence. But it's much more than an absence of speech. Stopping speaking is just the first non-negotiable step. Because when we are speaking, we're focused outward. Silence requires us to focus inward. But the second most important piece of silence is it's not an absence. It's a fullness. People think of silence as just, oh, well, normally there's speech and now there's no speech, so it's just an absence, an emptiness. It isn't. It's a fullness. It's a fullness that arises when we stop the chatter. But the outer speech is just the first part. It slowly becomes the inner speech. One of the things I've noticed that's really fun in silence is when you do an extended period, and I haven't done 40 days, but I've done 9 days, I've done 11 days, I once did 3 weeks. So those are as long as I've gone. And what I've noticed is, in the first couple of days, you just stop speaking outside. But the mind still keeps going. But what I noticed is what a huge percentage of the thoughts I have are about things I'm going to say to somebody. So like I'll see something. And in my mind, I'll think, oh, I've got to, tell Pujya Swamiji about this. Or I'll see something and I'll think, oh, that's so funny. I've got to, share that funny thing with somebody. And the moment that you really remember, I'm in silence, the mind stops doing that because it knows you're not going to be telling anyone anything. And so I know as I move through my day, so much of what I see reminds me of something I need to tell somebody, something I need to do, something. Maybe it's a piece of work. Maybe it's just a funny story. Maybe it's something inspirational. But when you know that for an extended period of time, you're not going to be sharing funny stories or inspirational stories or reminding people of things, the mind just stops telling you. It stops unnecessarily wasting its energy. And so an incredible silence actually comes automatically in the mind when we just stop talking. And this is a really interesting thing to notice. As you watch your thoughts, just note how many of my thoughts have to do with conversations I'm going to have in the future. And maybe it's not based on something you see. Maybe it's something that upsets you. Somebody did something, you want to give them a piece of your mind. But you're not going to. And so the mind just stops rehearsing those conversations that we're not going to be having. And I realized how much of our mental exercise is in preparing and rehearsing for conversations that we think are going to take place. And when you're in silence, well, there's no point telling somebody that, 3 weeks from now. So the mind just lets it go. So silence plays a critical role because it enables us to start listening on a much deeper level. When we are just in the world of words, we're in like this much depth of existence. The moment you remove the words, you get to drop deeper. And if you're not speaking to somebody, but you're not alone in a room just in intense meditation all day long, but actually moving through the world a little bit. Like when I've done silences, I'll still come for arati. I'll still come for meals. I mean, so it's not like I also don't see anyone. And it's very interesting because if you're not speaking, you connect on a much deeper level. When we're using words, notice how many times when you use words, you're not even really looking at the person you talk to. You're kind of doing something and sort of having a conversation with them at the same time. But when you're in silence, you gotta look, because it's all in the eye contact. It's all in that moment. And so it actually brings you into a presence that's really powerful. Not just inside, but even in communication. It does another thing. It does so much, but I'll give just one more thing it does. Is most of us have what you could think of as diarrhea of the mouth, where it's not so much that we're just constantly talking, but it's that we have no control over what we say. We have no control over when we open our mouth, when we don't. You know, it's literally when you've got loose motions, like you don't get to decide when you go to the toilet. Just gotta go. And for most of us, speaking is like that. A thought arises. And even before we have any awareness of what the thought is, it's out our mouth. And it's only later, if at all, that we stop and say, I wonder if I should have said that. Maybe there was a nicer way to say that. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. But of course the words are out. Whereas what silence does is it literally trains our brain, the habit of the brain, what we call sanskaras, or neural networks. It trains us to grab that space between our thoughts and our words, because we're not speaking. So whether our silence opens a few hours from now, a few days from now, we can't speak immediately. And so it creates this habit of I have a thought, but I don't speak it right away. Because even when I open my silence, when I'm no longer in silence, that habit got broken. And so you find that you start to be able to actually think about whether something is worth speaking. And that is one of the greatest tools in our personal, spiritual, emotional, psychological relationship toolboxes. Because not having control of our words and our mouth is what gets us in so much trouble, causes so much regret, causes so much conflict. And being able to really grab that space is a critical tool for life. But lastly, at the core, on the deepest spiritual level, it's all about creating quiet. First of the words, then of the mind, so that we can really hear that divine voice within. So that we can really start to tap in to what is happening beneath the noise of our own mind. And if you're going to practice silence, which I really recommend, don't worry if you can't do 40 days or even 4 days. Start an hour a day. Pick an hour, not while you're sleeping. Any hour, waking hour of the day. Pick an hour of the day. Mornings are a great time. It's a very powerful spiritual time, but it's also a time that can be very stressful in a home, getting ready, getting things done. There can be conflict because you're in a rush. Just make the morning a time of silence, at least the first hour. It enables you to stay anchored and grounded in that power of the morning. And you'll notice, if you live in a home with other family members, you'll notice that it starts the day off on a completely different vibration. It gives your nervous system time to anchor, to ground, to connect, to set, before you immediately start getting engaged around what's for breakfast, where'd you put the toast, where's the jam, who left the peanut butter open, you're late for school. It just creates a foundation for the day. But remember, as I said, it's not only about speech, which means if you are in silence, try to be away from your phone. If absolutely essential, if some super essential situation and you have to send a text message because you are not speaking, okay. But no social media, no scrolling WhatsApp, none of that. Just using it for an emergency of if I can't speak and I have to get a message out. So no phone, no TV, no incoming noise to the extent that you can avoid it. And after an hour, try 2 hours. Work up to half a day. Maybe a weekend. I realize it might be difficult at work, but half a day. See what you can do. And just slowly start stringing together as much time as you can. And you know, I know so many people in families who have said, oh, I couldn't, my kids, my God, my spouse, my God, what would they do? They'd panic, you know, they wouldn't be able to. Total illusion. 99 times out of 100, you being silent is the best thing you can do for your family. Creating silence in the home opens up that spaciousness for everyone. So just try it. You'll see how powerful it is. Yeah, great question. Other questions? Yes, of course. Yeah.
Pranam, I'm Vidisha. I was here yesterday also. So you told about awareness, freedom, and responsibilities. So I enjoy all the roles and responsibilities, being a mother, wife, daughter, but I'm also aware that these responsibilities are just a part of me and not me as a whole, okay? Somewhere, is it important to create a disconnection or dissociation from those responsibilities? Because, you know, when I want to move towards the path of inner deep healing work, what I find that, you know, I get stuck in those loops because somewhere I'm happy also, I'm aware also. There is no kind of discontentment from those, responsibilities which I'm living. So sometimes I feel that is it important to create certain kind of boundaries or dissociation if I really want to move ahead towards the path of awareness or deep inner healing work?
Yeah, great. And you know, yesterday, as I was saying, all of our spiritual teachings are given to people with responsibilities, given to householders, given to people in the world. And at certain times on our spiritual path, for certain periods of time, creating a cave, a cocoon, a space in which it's not so much about disconnection or disassociation from those, but it's really just about utilizing the time, the energy, the focus, the attention that normally goes like this and drawing it inward. And that's very, very helpful, periodically. But as long as you are a householder, the last thing you want to do is be in the dharma of being a householder, but then trying to disconnect yourself from the responsibilities of being a householder. Because then you're just going to be a miserable householder. You still won't be a sannyasi, and you'll just be a miserable householder. So instead, what you want to do is a couple of things. Number one, absolutely take some time. And it may be a few days here and there. It may be a few hours a day. Whatever you need to create so that you can go inward. We all understand the need of bathing ourselves, having time to do that, having time to go to the toilet. No one would say, like, how dare you go to the toilet, you're supposed to be. We realize, if I hold it in for too long, I'm going to get sick. If I don't bathe, I'm going to smell. We understand you got to do these things in the same way. You've got to do that spiritual work. Do the spiritual purification, the spiritual cleanse. So some time every day for sure. Periods of time periodically. But ultimately the key is not so much about creating the time away from it, but creating spaciousness within it. How much do you take on? How much do you micromanage? Are there aspects of the home, the family, the job that you don't necessarily have to be so connected to? Can you, even within the family, within the job situation, find places where you just really don't have to be quite so engaged all the time? Let people have their own, karmic drama thing going. Doesn't mean you have to get engaged with all of it. And you can start kind of withdrawing, not your love, not your presence, but that micromanagement mindset, the soap opera mindset. Love the family, be in it, do your duties, do your responsibilities. But recognize that you're doing them from a place of dharma rather than a place of drama. It's not the responsibilities that pull us out of our spiritual connection, it's the drama associated with them. So there is nothing unspiritual about loading or unloading a dishwasher, doing dishes, sweeping the floor. And we've got all of these amazing examples. If you doubt that, look at Shaburi, right? So we have these beautiful examples to remind us, sweeping the floor can be puja. What pulls us out of spirituality is sweeping the floor while thinking, this is awful. Why am I always the one who has to sweep the floor? Why doesn't the other person do it, right? And maybe not you, but this is what so many of us get caught up in. We think the problem is the task, but it's not actually the task, it's how we think about the task. So if you can take all of what you have to do, first of all, look at it and say, do I really have to do this? And if you do, great, do it. And while you do it, Make that your offering to the divine. Are you cooking food? Are you serving food? Are you cleaning up from food? Are you changing diapers? Are you whatever you may be doing? Can you see that as your spiritual practice and actually use it as karma yoga? Yoga in action, whatever you're doing. Filing papers, making Xerox copies, balancing spreadsheets, whatever you're doing, pumping gas. Utterly irrelevant. Doesn't matter what the task is. Can you see it as karma yoga? And then it becomes part of your spiritual practice rather than something pulling you out of your spiritual practice. But absolutely also ask yourself, are there ways I can minimize responsibilities that doesn't mean I'm not doing my duty or dharma? You know, a lot of us sign up directly or indirectly for so many things. I mean, I've had moments in my life where I find myself on like more committees than I can count. And there was a moment a few years ago where it was like almost every night I had some big international conference call of some committee, subcommittee I was on for something. And it was just like, oh my God, really? Like, do I have to actually be on all of these committees? And so I just slowly started pulling back. They're all important. They're wonderful. They were things that I wanted to do, but you realize, well, all of those late night conference calls are making it so much harder to get up in the morning. Can I pull back from some? Just to conserve that spiritual energy. Not that they're not worthy, not they're not important, but just because something's got to give. And so you just ask yourself, what is it that really is my dharma? What is it that I'm really meant to be serving it? And what's just the rest of the stuff that I get kind of roped into doing? Yeah, good. Other questions? Yes.
Hi, I'm Namita, and I've loved what you've had to share about silence, because I was just on the bridge walking around on the way back, and I was just thinking about silence, and you answered my question. So about harmony, and so I'm a longevity practitioner, and I help women reverse aging naturally. I'm using cellular minerals. I feel as though I have the tools and the insights. But I went through something about 2 years ago. I just hope it's all right I'm sharing this.
Of course, absolutely.
I was targeted by an extremely influential leader, and I almost lost my life.
And you were?
I almost lost my life. I was in the emergency ward. It was someone I trusted. It was an extremely renowned person, and it was betrayal, misconduct of power. And I'm still, it's been almost 2 years, but I'm still really shaken with the experience. I don't even know where to start. I've gone through it's not trying to sound like a victim, but it was, energetically misused by a very renowned person that I was on the path for about 12 years. And and for me, even to believe it, I was in denial. I was like, it's not possible. But then there were so many diagnoses done, lots of things that happened. I went to many people, and it was consistent, all the reports. So, so it's just I didn't even know, I was in the ICU, my brother was going to fly down to say goodbye to me, and it was really serious. So I don't know, I'm trying my best to come out of it, and I know I have a lot of work to do. I want to help people, but I just flew in from Dubai because, again, my nervous system went especially after what I've gone through. So, do you have any suggestions of? I meditate, I do whatever I can do, and I'm doing my breath work. I'm trying to be positive, but I wake up in the night and I'm still shaken with the whole experience of almost losing my life and being targeted in the manner I was.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry that that happened to you. At this point, you need to let it go. And I don't mean that to undermine the severity of it, but because you now need to be free. And this is something that we speak about a lot here because it's a topic that's very, very important to me. It's something that in my life I learned in a very deep way around our identification with that which has been done to us, the harm that has been done to us, knowingly, unknowingly, on purpose, by accident. And we identify with that. Whether we say victim, whether we say survivor. Either way, it's an identification. And in order to be free, we need to let go. It doesn't mean that what the other person did was okay. It doesn't mean we are absolving them of their karmic fruit that they will surely get for doing this to us. It doesn't mean that we're absolving them morally, ethically, legally. When I came to India, and this is a story that many of you probably know, but it's an important story for you, and I think a beautiful one worth hearing again for those of you who have heard it. I asked Pujya Swamiji about fear, because I too found myself in a heightened state of anxiety much of the time. And I was an overachiever. I had figured out how to overachieve even in the midst of the heightened anxiety. And I asked him about fear. How do I overcome fear? And he said, you fear because you don't trust. And I then told him my story. You have a story of abuse and harm and betrayal. I had a story of abuse and harm and betrayal. And it was a good story. I was 25. It was a story that up until that moment in my life had gotten me lots of sympathy. Lots of people saying, oh, you poor thing, my God, you know. And Pujya Swamiji looked at me and he said, are you going to take that to the grave? I said, God, no, of course not. He said, are you going to let it go on your deathbed? He said, maybe a week before you die, you'll let it go. Maybe a month before you die. And I was a 25-year-old getting my PhD in pediatric neuropsych. I had a bachelor's in psychology from Stanford. I was in the midst of this PhD. I mean, so I was immersed in the field of psychology. And I said, no, Swamiji, you know, I'll let it go before that. I'm in process. I'm working on it. And he looked at me and he said, you're waiting for someone to draw the line. You're waiting for someone else to come in and say you can be done. He said, no one will. You can carry this pain and this anger and this trauma to your deathbed. You can carry it to your grave, or you can let it go tonight. And he had me, it's a long story, I'll fast forward to the end. He had me go and stand in the waters of Ganga and offer the pain, offer the anger, offer all of that. And I did. And not only did it work, and not only did it free me on the deepest, most powerful, incredible level, but what it made me realize was so important and has been for me such a core aspect of this work. It has nothing to do with what the other person did. That which I had been subjected to was illegal, amoral, unethical, abuse by any standards, by anyone across the world. There was absolutely no justification for it. 100 out of 100, 10,000 out of 10,000 people said, "Oh my God, I can't believe that happened to you." And still, for me to hold on to it, despite the illegality, unethicalness, amoralness of what was done, was just to keep myself in a cage, to keep myself stuck. And what it made me realize was that the letting go and forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person, nothing to do with what they've done. We're not saying, to a judge, either in a courtroom or the cosmic or karmic judge, we're not saying absolve them. We're saying, I deserve to be free, even though someone else chose me as the object of their abuse and their harm. That does not take away my birthright to be free. Just because someone else decided I was the appropriate object, target of the abuse does not, in any way, shape, or form, change the core truth of who I am, which is divine, or change my core dharma, which is to realize that, or change my core worthiness, which is full and complete. And so you've got to let it go. With the faith that the cosmic, karmic laws will function the way that they need to. But you need to free yourself. And you are in exactly the right place. And so what I would suggest is that tomorrow you should come every morning. We have a beautiful fire ceremony here at 8:30, a yagna. Come for the yagna. We can organize even a special sacred puja for you. Taraji, will you coordinate that? Thanks. Have a special puja for you. After that puja, have a bath in Ganga. And just offer it to her. Ma, you take it. It's like kids, we get hurt, we crawl into our mom's lap and cry, and she takes care of it. Whether it's kissing the boo-boo on our knee or, making the principal stop the bully in the schoolyard or whatever it is. But once we've come and crawled into mom's lap, we're good. You're here in the lap of the mother. Let her take care of it. Just give it to her. Give it to her. That person's ego, ignorance, illusion, violence has already stolen enough minutes of your life. Do not offer up any more moments of your joy, your peace, your freedom, your dharma on the altar of their violence, ignorance, ego, illusion. Because that is the most precious thing in your life. And stop offering it daily on the altar of their harm. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, you're here to do some beautiful work. Yes. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evenings, everyone. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining from all over the world. And I look so forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Have a beautiful, beautiful night.